We are the gates of Holy Week, the great week of our faith. But instead of talking about what we're going to celebrate these days or how we are going to celebrate it with the conditions and restrictions due to the pandemic, I have to talk again about the Vatican's prohibition to bless homosexual unions of any kind. And I have to talk about it again because there has been a lot of talk about it this week. It didn't really surprise me, although it did hurt and worry me. It was expected. First of all, as I already told you last week, there was the immediate reaction of those 300 Austrian priests and deacons, and they were immediately joined by a large group of German priests. Well, these figures are always a bit relative, but anyway, assuming they are true, more than 1,000 German priests. There was also the intervention of some bishops who have always been in favor of at least blessing homosexual unions, if not legalizing or approving the practice of homosexuality. For example, the Bishop of Antwerp and the Bishop of Essen in Germany. There was also a joint declaration of 2,200 German theologians. Curious, in this country of Germany, where there are more theologians than seminarians in the seminaries. But anyway, well, it must be the things of Germany, where there are many theologians and few seminarians. 2,200 theologians against the Vatican document. And the last thing has been, at least as far as I know, the decision of the two main leaders of this feminist movement, which they say is Catholic Woman 2.0, who decided to leave the Catholic Church as a protest against what they consider an impossible to solve machismo, an unbearable machismo. Well, so far this is the open and explicit reaction of so many, even by people who are not usually as radical as the Bishop of Essen and Antwerp. I am referring to Cardinal Schönborn of Vienna. Demonstrations of rejection and protest. This situation raises two questions in my mind. Why has this answer to a dubium been published now, to a question that was reserved, that was not public? And the other question, does nobody support the Vatican in this matter? There are questions that are still unanswered. I think of the famous four dubias that were presented by the four cardinals, asking for an answer after the publication of Amoris Laetitia, and that are open and public questions, and that have not been answered yet. Why then do we face the answer to a question that was reserved, that was private? Why? I think, and this is an interpretation of course, I think the Vatican wanted to anticipate what they knew was probably going to happen. That is, it has been a preventive response to the Synod that is taking place in Germany, because within the program of the Synod are included the intercommunion with Protestants, or the priesthood of women, but also this, the blessing of homosexual unions, in short, of all types of unions that are not those of a man and a woman married in the Church. Because what is evident, it seems to me, is that if this blessing of gay or lesbian couples is carried out, then all the rainbow of possibilities included in the LGBT movement should be blessed, which are a lot. That is to say, if one thing is accepted, probably everything will have to be accepted. In short, what is known as gender ideology will have to be accepted in its entirety. So, in order to avoid this, what the Vatican has said is, before you approve something that we are not going to be able to accept, we already tell you that we're not going to be able to accept it. We prefer to tell you before so that we do not have to say after you approve it that you have to back down. At least this is what it seems to me, to make public an answer to a private and reserved question which has created this powder keg, and that of course it could be foreseen that this was going to happen. I believe that it has a more preventive function than anything else. Of course, the application of this prohibition by the Vatican is still up in the air. I believe that both sides know that it will not prevent them from continuing to bless homosexual couples. They will not stop. The Austrian and German priests have already said that they will keep doing it, and it could only be stopped if the respective bishops decided to impose canonical sanctions on those who disobey the law, and this won't probably happen. And they say that this will eventually, and sooner rather than later, cause the disappearance of that law, because what good is a law if it is not enforced? That is what they say, and of course we'll see how it turns out. Because the future takes many turns, history takes many turns, and what today seems to be going to happen, then it turns out that it doesn't happen. History is in God's hands. The other question that has caught my attention and that has made me wonder is, where are they? Why haven't those who are in favor of this prohibition said anything? Those who protest against the Vatican, they have demonstrated publicly, in a massive way, in certain places, not in the rest of the world. Lay people, feminists, priests, deacons, bishops, cardinals have demonstrated. They say that the Pope has received privately many letters of protest that have not wanted to make them public, and that some are from high officials of the Church. Well, but where are the manifestations of support to the Pope and the Vatican for this document? Where are they? As far as I know, there has only been one bishop in the United States, the Bishop of Portland, Oregon, who has openly thanked the Holy Father for having approved this. Surely there are more, and maybe I have not heard about them, but anyways, there are very few. Why? This doesn't seem right to me, because if there are critics against the Pope when the Pope, according to them, does something that is not well done, those same critics should come out to support the Pope when, according to them, he does something that is well done. We cannot leave the Pope alone. This reminds me very much of what happened with the publication of Humanae Vitae by Paul VI, or what happened with Dominus Jesus by John Paul II when Cardinal Ratzinger was prefect of the doctrine of the faith. The Pope was left alone, and it is not that many didn't agree with him, but that they remained quiet. In this case, possibly, at least in part, this silence is possibly due to the fear that the powerful lobby that spreads the gender ideology all over the world will attack anyone who dares to speak out against any aspect of this gender ideology. We cannot leave the Pope alone. I think we must pray for him in such a difficult moment. I repeat, with a schism on the doorstep, which possibly will not happen, and that this departure of the two notorious German feminists doesn't seem to me that it will be followed by a massive departure of priests or bishops who would break communion with the Church, because I repeat, they know that they will continue to do what they want without anything happening to them. But in any case, it is a very delicate and difficult moment. We must support the Pope. We must pray for him. We must not leave him alone in the defense of the integral doctrine of the Church, as has been in this case, the approved document published by the Doctrine of the Faith with the consent and approval of the Pope, as the document itself says. In any case, we must not forget, we are at the gates of Holy Week. And this, in the end, is what gives us strength and hope. Christ has died, and Christ has risen. He is the Lord of history. Let us not forget it. We must trust in Him, even though we are living, at least in some respects, a Good Friday. And there are so many dark points in our present and in our future. We must trust in Him because He has conquered death. He is risen. Until next week, God willing.